This video is not a review, at least not for the most part anyway. It is not an analysis or a deep dive video either, it doesn't contain facts or trivia, it's just an opinion piece. I'm just a fan who waited over 15 years for this game, and now I want to talk about it. On the day Final Fantasy VII Remake released, I straight up left the internet. I isolated myself from outside influences so I could form my own thoughts without intrusion. I sunk 74 hours into my first playthrough, then I went back in and experienced the game a second time, just to be sure. Then I wrote all my thoughts down, and here I am now. As far as my favourite games of all time go, there are two games that share the number one spot. I don't say this lightly either, many games have come and gone, entering and exiting the rest of my top 10 over the years, but two games have remained at the top spot without ever dipping, and I can't place one over the other either. One of the games is Nights into Dreams, a Sega classic that has a special place in my heart for various reasons. The other is the original Final Fantasy VII, which I've already spoken about in my personal documentary. With the amount of games I've played throughout my life, it's significant to say no other game has entered the number one spot alongside these two. As far as number ones go, this harmonic balance between the two of them has never shifted or changed in any way. Until now, because Final Fantasy VII Remake sits alongside them. So, let me explain the personal reasons why the number one spot on my list suddenly became a whole lot more occupied. As far as I was concerned, FF7 Remake had a tall order to fill. It needed to do a lot for me to even consider it a good game, because for as hyped as I was about it, I was also very cautious too. Previous games from Square had left odd tastes in my mouth, and for a game as important as Final Fantasy VII, the last thing I wanted to be left with was a strange taste upon playing its remake. So much needed to be done right, and not just that, it needed to also be done right to my personal requirements. This remake gave my requirements a 3-course meal and a full body massage before telling me it loved me. That's where it went with it. Let's start with what I consider to be the most important aspect of video game media, the characters. A very huge problem I've had with some Square games is, more often than not, characters have either felt like empty shells just reading their lines, or they've been so convolutingly over the top that they're hard to find relatable. Dialogue and conversations felt unnatural, and as a result I never connected to anything these characters were saying. Final Fantasy XV kinda came close to giving me some characters that felt believable, but even then they were bogged down by a really questionable narrative direction and a terribly paced story. The cast from Final Fantasy VII themselves have suffered from similar issues, with various titles in the compilation making characters feel awkwardly off balance. When the remake was announced, my biggest concern was the characters. How was Square going to portray them? Because if it was anything like these examples so far, then there were reasons for me to worry. I, like many other people, consider these characters to be like old friends, and if we're going to be seeing them again, then I didn't want them feeling like imposters. I just wanted my friends back. Final Fantasy VII Remake didn't just give me my friends back, it had evolved the core of each of them and fleshed them out further than I ever imagined they would have taken them. Cloud was always a bit of an ignorant prick, but he opened up as time went on. That was one of his more basic arcs that he had throughout Final Fantasy VII. In the remake, Cloud is fleshed out by showing us that this attitude is more of a front than him being genuine. And if you're aware of Cloud's spoiler-filled backstory, then you'll also know why this front is a crucial part of his character, but I won't go into that here. Being admired was Cloud's childhood dream after all, so he acts cool and cold-hearted in an effort to gain that respect. Thanks to the character's facial expressions, body language, and brilliant voice acting, we now see that Cloud sometimes has a difficult time keeping this facade going. He's not as strong as he pretends to be. We now see cracks in his metaphorical armour, and I love it. It makes the character feel more human than he's ever felt. And it's not just Cloud that has this level of detail applied to them either. Every significant character has it. Every character has been treated with care and attention while extending their scope further. From Elmira's protective nature over her daughter, to Hojo's batshit insanity, everyone feels genuine and multi-layered. The Turks, arguably my favourite group in the series, are portrayed as having a grey area of conscience. They know that sometimes they have to do bad things because the job requires it, but deep down they know they are not bad people. Reno and Rude especially show a very fine line between their commitments to their superiors and the connection they have to their own beliefs. On personal levels, they take great pride in their work and they complete their missions as instructed.
Yeah, coming right up. No, you don't! Not when I'm working!
Plate separation authorized. Awaiting confirmation.
Press it! Now. You ain't got shit on us.
But they're not robots, and if they have to do something they don't agree with, it will rest heavy on their minds.
Been thinking, was all that necessary?
Had we refused, someone else would have completed the task. We have spared that someone the burden of a guilty conscience. Perhaps that will ease yours.
Yeah, nope.
It's a brilliant tightrope that the Turks have to balance on, and I love hearing them talk because you never know what side they'll lean towards. Avalanche are a heartwarming band of would-be heroes but ones who harbour self-doubts, and as a result they're not sure how to handle things when they bite off more than they can chew. Like the Turks, they find themselves in a grey area as well. They want to save the planet, but the methods they're using feel costly and sometimes counterproductive, so they question themselves constantly, with each member doing so in different ways. Jessie appears as a playful, lively chatterbox, but she harbours guilt because the bombs she created do more collateral damage than she expected. Biggs keeps a cool head in drastic situations, but during solitary moments he's overthinking everything and worries for the safety of his friends. Wedge has a heart of gold and always wants to play his part, but he feels he lets people down more than he helps them. Simple, one-dimensional characters from the original game now have incredible amounts of depth added to their personalities. Even a character like Sephiroth, a character known for only spouting typical lines of omnipotence, has personality to those lines now. Upon seeing Sephiroth again for the first time, Cloud is confused and panicking, to which Sephiroth taunts him about.
You're not real. You're dead.
I am.
I killed you with my own...
Oh, you need not remind me. It was the crowning moment of our time together. But that was then, and this is now. I have a favor to ask.
Yes, there's still a god complex within his voice, which is what we expect of Sephiroth, but now it's not just a character firing off holier-than-thou sentences into the air, it's a character delivering dialogue within a coherent conversation. I love this. There's back and forth, there's momentum between lines, all these characters are talking to one another. And this experience is only heightened further by the outstanding voice talent in this game. Seriously, shout out to all the voice actors. If they should ever find themselves somehow watching this video, I want to say thank you to all of you for giving life to these characters. I've waited such a long time to hear Cloud and Barrett shit talk each other, or for Aerith to whip out a sarcastic playful one-liner, or Tifa to speak cautiously and hesitantly about her insecurities. To the voice talent in FF7 Remake, you've all done a wonderful job, and I want to personally thank you all so much for the work you have done. Please keep it up because you're all killing it out here, for real. The characters in Final Fantasy VII Remake had me feeling so many emotions. I smiled at the interactions, I teared up and straight up cried at some points when things got a little heavy, and I laughed. I genuinely laughed out loud at some of the funnier moments. And that rarely happens to me, by the way. I sometimes find humour in video games to be very on the nose, and while I might appreciate a funny scene, I don't normally find myself laughing out loud. But FF7 Remake genuinely had some moments in there where the writing was so on point and the delivery was so perfectly executed that characters did or said something that felt so human and relatable that I burst out with laughter. I love the characters in Remake. I love how they were handled, I love how they act and talk, I love the way they interact with one another, I love their designs and the way they carry themselves, I love their body language and mannerisms, all of it. Every character in this game was treated with the respect they deserved. And I'm actually going to go on record here by saying this. I think this is the best these characters have ever been. That includes them being compared to their original FF7 counterparts. I've never seen them like this. So complete and realised. This is my favourite portrayal of them, and I can't wait to see them all again in Remake Part 2 when they travel the world and meet all the other characters. And on that note regarding location, the city of Midgar, and by extension the planet of Gaia in Final Fantasy VII, is one of my most favourite fictional worlds in any media. Midgar itself is such an incredible city full of lore and personality. By setting the first Remake game entirely in Midgar, it has allowed the devs to expand upon it, every sector feeling like a completely different world, every street has a different story to tell. I love this place. I love this place so much that I kinda wish I didn't have to leave it behind just yet, you know that? I kinda wanna hang around it a bit longer. But it wasn't just the expansion of Midgar's size that I appreciated. There were a few things working in harmony that invited me into this world and really made me feel at home. Art direction, visual design, lighting, characters, and music. Art direction and visual design follow the original version of the city, but naturally breathe much more depth and detail into it. Most of everything that I remember from the original game is back but has been expanded upon, so a small field map in the old game is now a fairly large location to walk around in. Places are familiar but fresh. The attention to detail is incredible, and the callbacks, oh my god, the callbacks are lovingly included in every nook and cranny. One example is the giant TV in Sector 5. In the original game, it's just a giant TV in the background that you couldn't interact with. In the remake, this TV now acts as a community hotspot where NPCs gather to watch the news. Even the most insignificant details suddenly have purpose to them, and in turn it makes this world feel a whole lot more believable and lived in. The lighting for each location is gorgeous and really establishes the mood of where I was. Walking around the slums at night feels completely different during the daytime. The daylight hours offer a bright visual aid to the surrounding area, and the nighttime hours are dimly lit by some lamps. The daytime feels social and active, the nighttime feels cautious and careful. Same location, two completely different moods thanks to brilliant use of lighting. Catch the sunset in the slums and you'll see the underside of the upper plate like you've never seen it before. In fact, looking up at the upper plate during any time of day is an incredible sight to behold, especially during nighttime. And don't even get me started on the upper plate itself. The wealthy sectors of the city feel like I just went for a walk through the rich side of London. Street lamps, phone boxes, road signs, advertisement boards, cobblestone pavements and neon lights litter these locations, and I swear to God, I could just walk around those areas all day long. In fact, I did actually, if I'm being really honest with you. At one point during Chapter 4, when I went on a mission to the upper plate, I literally spent 20 whole minutes just walking down a single residential road. I am not lying to you, I did this. It took 20 minutes because I was just absorbing everything around me and just looking at the whole location. When I say I took my time with this game, I'm serious. I took my time with this game. The world is further fleshed out by the NPCs, each one of them speaking about city life with such hand-on-heart authenticity, you'd think Midgar was a real place and these people were actually living there, especially story-related characters. Roach, a third-class soldier, appears briefly to battle Cloud, giving us a glimpse into what the members of Soldier are like and how other characters perceive them. Leslie, a lackey of Don Corneo, gives us insight into just how the shady underbelly of society for Wall Market can be, and Andrea Rodea is the most extravagant personality in the whole city, and his inclusion shows us that for all the crap people get put through, there's always moments to smile and feel alive. And it's actually on the note regarding Andrea himself, do I want to highlight what I feel to be one of the most important ingredients for immersion. the music. I have never played a game that has composed its soundtrack so lovingly, so fittingly, so collaboratively to what is being shown on screen until I played Final Fantasy VII Remake. The music accompanies a shot or a gameplay section or a boss battle or a conversation or a cutscene almost every single moment in this game, whether you're playing it or watching it, is collaborating with the soundtrack. The music is a part of the narrative. It's part of the motion from story beat to gameplay section. Every step of the way, the soundtrack is there with you, holding your hand and walking with you through the whole experience. It's beyond anything I could have expected from an OST. You're about to fight a boss, you're going from cutscene into gameplay, the music swings from atmospheric orchestral chords to a rip-roaring guitar intro and drums, getting you energized and ready to kick some ass.
I'm sick of all of this.
It's just like but I failed you.
Cloud, get your head in the game. We're counting on you, man.
Are you all right?
You're in a cutscene where Cloud is suddenly hit with a wave of emotion. A motif of a familiar song strikes a certain mood, before we slide back into gameplay, where a delicate brand new unheard melody starts to gently seep through, complementing the cutscene we just saw.
Cloud? Is something wrong?
It's nothing.
And I just want to say this right now, okay? The dance-off at the Honeybee Inn made me feel so happy. I was literally teary-eyed and grinning like a goof the entire time. It was so uplifting, man. Just hearing the music and the energy of the club, and Aerith sitting in the crowd cheering you on and having the time of her life. I loved that moment so much. It made me feel like $1,000,000, yeah. I love the Honeybee Inn. Music is a powerful tool to aid or change emotions in people, and Final Fantasy VII Remake knows this. Play this game with the music off and you're losing 50% of the experience. I'm serious. Old songs have been recreated in multiple versions for different moments, each one handling the source tune with love and care. Brand new songs have been composed to build further upon the sights and sounds of this world and the lore around it. There's variety, there's embellishment, and there's focus with each song. And for those of you who know me, know how important music is to me. And you'll know why this particular factor plays such a key role towards what I experienced from this game. Final Fantasy VII Remake absolutely didn't need to go this hard with the OST, but it did. And in doing so, it hasn't just given me something to listen to later on down the line when I'm feeling nostalgic. The music is part of the here and now experience because it's so intricately woven in with the story and gameplay. I love music. And it seems Final Fantasy VII Remake loves music too, because the soundtrack never let me go throughout my entire playthrough. All of these elements working in tandem with each other had me immersed in where I was. Coupled together with the fact that I was already a fan of Midgar before playing the remake, getting to experience Midgar like this was way beyond what I thought I was going to get. I've never seen Midgar like this before, so varied and living that Midgar itself feels like a character. In Final Fantasy VII Remake, Midgar is practically alive. If I'm being honest, I was worried about the gameplay. Sure, the issue about whether this game would be turn-based or not did have my concerns at first, but from a personal perspective, I was more worried about if I was going to enjoy playing it in general, regardless of if it was turn-based or otherwise. When it comes to Square games, I haven't been fond of how a huge portion of their later games played. Nothing causes me to drop a video game quicker. If playing it feels like a chore, then I don't want to play it and I will stop. Simple as. That was going to be the worst case scenario. I was actually preparing myself for that outcome. If the remake came out and I didn't have fun playing it, I was most probably going to abandon it and then just watch someone else's playthrough online. That didn't happen. In fact, much to my surprise, the complete polar opposite happened. I was having too much fun playing this game. 74 hours on a first playthrough can tell you just how much fun I was having. I didn't want it to end. But why was it so good? What was it doing that made me enjoy it so much? Well, for a start, this game is incredibly accessible. I haven't played an RPG that felt this welcoming in my life. It's standard for games to have a difficulty option right out the gates. Easy and normal modes were available from the start and I went for normal just to see how I would get on. The thing about me though is, I don't play video games to push myself too much. I don't want to work that hard. Yes, I like a little challenge when overcoming obstacles, but I don't want to hit brick walls, because all that's going to do is ruin my personal enjoyment, and the reason I'm here playing the game in the first place is to enjoy myself. So I played on normal, and at 2 or 3 points during my playthrough, I ran into some boss characters that pretty much bodied me. I'd give them a couple of tries, but if I wasn't progressing, then FF7 Remake allowed me to switch it down to easy without penalising me for it. I could now pass the boss, then switch it back up to normal when continuing from there. And I'm so grateful that I was allowed to do this without the game making me feel like shit for it. I earned the same items, I got the same cutscenes, I wasn't robbed if my skill level wasn't up to scratch. If I needed to take an easier approach, then I was allowed to do so and I wasn't made fun of for it. I really appreciated this. And I know I said this video wasn't really going to be a review, but I would just like to also tip my hat to the fact that they included a mode called Classic Mode in this game. Sure, the mode doesn't entirely function like how the original FF7 does with turn-based combat, so calling it Classic Mode bends the truth a little, but the fact that the mode is purely menu-focused opens the game up to a whole wide bunch of people who might have likely never played this game because of all the action elements. If you want to focus on menuing without worrying about on-screen action, you've got it. And the fact that a New Game Plus hard mode exists after your first completion gives more challenge to those of you who want that as well. It's there for you. You only need to look at the variety of modes and options in this remake to see how Square really wanted to make the game as accessible as possible, and that deserves nothing but respect. But it's not the accessibility that got me to enjoy the game, no. The accessibility is what won my respect. What won my heart was the fact that the battles are just so incredibly satisfying. I play games to enjoy myself, and the enjoyment I got from this completely took me by surprise. It is hands down some of the most fun I've ever had from playing a video game. Period. I'm not exaggerating, I am serious. Square's choices towards the gameplay were genius. During combat, you do basic attacks or defend to build up a meter gauge. When certain sections of the meter are full, you can access something called Tactical Mode, which is a menu-based system where you select greater abilities to utilize. When you select this menu, the action on screen slows down to a snail pace, giving you a moment to catch your breath and think about your options. It is the perfect marriage between hack and slash action and menu-based combat. I still can't believe they managed to pull it off this well. Can't believe it, swear down. I love how the battles function in this game. I go into a fight hacking or punching or shooting away at the enemy until my meter fills up. Right now, it's like I'm playing Bayonetta with Street Fighter meter management included on the side. Then when I have enough meter, I access the menu, and now it's playing like an older style turn-based RPG, similar to how original FF7 sort of feels. And thanks to the slowdown in action on screen, I'm not just allowed to plan ahead at my own pace, I'm also being treated to some visually amazing imagery on screen. Like, it feels like I'm experiencing what The Matrix felt like when I saw bullet time for the very first time. So many feelings, so many satisfactory moments are given to me during combat. I cannot describe it any other way. It feels like a Bayonetta, Street Fighter, turn-based RPG hybrid with each part just flowing smoothly between one another. I go from one aspect of the combat to the next without anything putting me off. It's genius. It's so bloody genius. I feel incredible when I play this game. And that's another thing I want to mention as well, actually. With Square taking accessibility into account, if you don't want to pause time with the tactical mode feature, like if you want to play this as a pure action game with little to no menuing, you can. You can map shortcut button inputs that use abilities in real time without you ever needing to access the menu. Again, Square went all out in making this game as accessible as possible to as many gamers as possible, and things like this truly deserve respect. Even if I'm never going to use these features or play those modes myself, just the fact that someone else has a chance to enjoy this game without needing to change the way they play is truly considerate game design, and it makes me very happy and very grateful. Another thing I really appreciated was the fact that Square also cared about the weapons you'd be using during combat. One major issue I had with FF7 Original was that once you got a new weapon, older weapons kinda became obsolete. You'd not have much reason to use them. The Buster Sword, my favourite fictional sword of all time, becomes pretty useless after a few hours in the original game, which sucked because the legacy behind the sword carried such weight and lore, it felt criminal to discard it. Well, Final Fantasy VII Remake allows me to upgrade weapons and keep them relevant throughout, so if I wanted to play the entire game with the Buster Sword, essentially what I call a Buster Sword playthrough, I can. I am allowed to make that choice and play the entire game with the Buster Sword. Each weapon does come with an incentive to try them out, since each new weapon has a unique ability assigned to that weapon, but once you use the ability a few times, your character themselves learn that unique ability and you can then carry that ability across to all your other weapons, meaning I can switch to other weapons to learn their unique skills, then once I've mastered them, I can carry those abilities back over to my beloved Buster Sword. It's my choice and the way I want to play, and I love it. Once again, Square want you to feel comfortable, and they've made this game as accessible and as customizable as possible to play. And I love them for it. I hope they continue with this mindset for the rest of the remake series. I've seen people compare the gameplay to Final Fantasy XV, and I actually disagree with that. I personally feel that those statements are a disservice to the gameplay in Remake. If you've not played FF7 Remake, and there's one thing you have to take away from this video, it's this. Final Fantasy VII Remake doesn't play like Final Fantasy XV. FF7 Remake goes to greater lengths in giving you a more robust, fully realised and fully functioning system, one that satisfies and rewards you as much as it does, while also being incredibly accessible to a wider variety of playstyles. It does its own thing, and it does it incredibly well. It makes itself so accessible that it's practically inviting everybody in to play it. It wants you to play it. And honestly, if you play FF7 Remake and can't find a playstyle that suits you, then I'll be very surprised, because this game works its arse off to make you feel as comfortable as possible. No word of a lie, I have never played anything like it before. With the gameplay turning out so amazing, it added one incredibly huge bonus on top of everything else that this game was doing for me. I didn't expect to love the gameplay as much as I did, but the fact that I did meant I wanted to keep playing it. And I kept playing it, and I kept having fun, and I wanted to play more, so I would come back and play more and have more fun. That's what I want a video game to do for me. That's how I want to feel. I just never imagined Final Fantasy VII Remake would be the game to make me feel like this. That to me seemed like another tall order to fulfill, but it does it. And with the gameplay being as fun as this, it's the greatest gift upon an already large pile of great gifts that this game gave to me. When it comes to the storyline, honestly, I'm not going to talk about it in this video because that requires its own spoiler-filled discussion. But I will say this much for the here and now and why I've geeked so hard about Final Fantasy VII Remake in this video. The amount of joy I've felt from it is unexpected. Usually, when you wait a long time for something, it never turns out to be as good as what you were expecting. The time spent over the last 15 years were filled with daydreams of what I imagined a remake would be like. And as you know, daydreams are just that. They're idealistic and unreal, so naturally it's almost impossible for reality to match what we dream because our dreams are so unique to each of us. But I swear down when I say this, okay? I've played moments in this game that I had dreamt about, and my brain has had trouble understanding how it was possible. Moments where I was running around the upper plate during the midnight hours while I converse and bond with members of Avalanche. Moments where I string together the sickest looking combo as Tifa, highlighting just how much of an awesome fighter this girl really is. Moments where I'm simply just running around as Cloud, not doing anything important. I'm just running around in the slums while I pan the camera to look at the upper plate that hangs above my head, while the setting sun casts a beam of light onto the Buster Sword and the blade shimmers and glistens as I move around. Specific things I had daydreams about are in this game, I swear to you. After 74 hours and then some, I still don't understand how this game is real. I also still don't understand how it landed a release date on my 35th birthday and bookended a personal 15-year-long wait. I feel so lucky to experience this game. It almost feels like I'm not worthy. Now, from a critical standpoint, is this game perfect in all senses of the word? No. Were there moments that I felt could have been done better? Absolutely. I love this game, and I can geek out and gush about this game all year long, but for me to be the fair person that I am, I would also have to be critical of its downsides, and it does have some issues that I feel are worth mentioning. But not right now. Not here in this video. This is a personal celebration, a moment in time where a literal daydream came true. It very rarely happens, but when it does, when your dreams come true, you celebrate it for all it's worth, because those moments are few and far between, and when we look back over our lives and see everything we went through, it's those moments where our dreams came true that shine the brightest. And sorry, I'm not trying to get all preachy just now, I'm just having a moment, okay? This is something very significant to me, and I just wanted to document it. I want to thank Square Enix for making this happen. Yeah, from the talented voice acting, to the script writers, to the people that thought up the battle system, to the musicians and programmers, to the QA department who had the huge task of testing this thing. To everybody that made this game happen, and for it to have turned out as good as it has, I mean it. Thank you. Thank you from the core of my heart. I don't normally say this in my videos, but I hope some of you who worked on this game actually are watching this and are hearing me. Whatever level of the company you work at, I want you to know how thankful I am that you made this game. You made Final Fantasy VII Remake. Thank you so much. And to everybody else, I thank you for your time watching this video. Thank you for listening to me gush about this game. I know it was long, but, you know, this one was for me. I needed to do this. It was a long time coming, so I needed to do this. You lot take care of yourselves out there right about now. The world is on some fuckery business, so please keep yourselves safe. And hopefully, if all goes well, I'll see you all again real soon.